This weekend, a high-stakes diplomatic event begins. Direct talks between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran, hosted and facilitated remarkably by Iran itself. The ostensible goal is to implement a 14-day ceasefire and negotiate conditions that both superpowers have laid on the table. Yet behind the diplomatic language lies a war of words that has escalated for months. The outcome of these negotiations could determine whether the Middle East moves toward peace or plunges into a wider conflagration. Part I. Trump's demands the Strait of Hormuz. As flashpoint at the heart of the conflict is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which a fifth of the world's oil passes. US President Donald Trump has issued a blunt ultimatum to Tehran: stop demanding security payments from tankers transiting the strait. According to Trump, his administration has received reports that Iran is preparing a formal plan to freeze and extract payments from ships passing through these waters. This move is wrong, Trump declared. It must be stopped immediately. Trump added that peace depends on Iran making meaningful contributions, not merely ceasing nuclear production, but ending what he called economic piracy. The Gulf of Oman must not become a target of hostility, he said, noting that the upcoming negotiations are expected to take place near that very Gulf. For Trump, the message is clear. The status of the Strait of Hormuz must be resolved at the negotiating table. The United States will not accept Iranian annexation or control of international waterways. Part 2. Iran's sovereignty. The Revolutionary Guard's Red Iran sees the matter very differently. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps IRGC, the regime's most powerful military faction and a fierce adversary of the US. And Israel insists that the Strait of Hormuz falls under Iranian sovereignty. Iran has the right, they argue, to control the strait jointly with Oman. However, Oman has been conspicuously absent from the recent tensions. It has not participated in collecting any fees or payments from oil tankers. If Oman were to cooperate with Iran, it would be seen as a geopolitical victory for Tehran. But Iran needs revenue. The country has been devastated by a crippling blockade imposed by US and Israeli forces following what some have called the 40-day war. Iranian revolutionaries claim they have already made significant concessions, abandoning their nuclear weapons program, for example, but they insist that the Strait of Hormuz must benefit Iran economically. The question remains, can Iran afford to give up this leverage? Part 3. The international community rallies. France, India, and China weigh in. The world is watching closely. More than 40 countries recently convened in London, where France has taken a leading role in pressuring the Islamic Republic. France, along with other nations, has declared deep involvement in the Gulf of Oman security. They have made it clear that they do not want to send warships to the Strait of Hormuz, nor do they wish to compete militarily with Iran. Yet their patience is wearing thin. India has taken a particularly stance. New Delhi announced that if Indian ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz are captured by the Iranian Navy, India will retaliate by sending its own warships. The Strait of Hormuz is not a waterway Iran built with its own labor, an Indian official declared. It is a natural phenomenon arising from the dynamic forces of nature. Iran has no right to control it. If Iran continues to violate international maritime law, Iran must confront India. It is worth noting that Iran's naval presence in the strait is limited. The United States has reportedly sunk more than 60 Iranian warships in recent conflicts. What remains of the Iranian fleet consists mostly of small boats and speedboats, enough for harassment, but not for a conventional naval confrontation. Part 4. The Persian Gulf. The world's economic artery. The strategic importance of the Persian Gulf cannot be overstated. Nearly all cargo ships passing through the region carry goods from the Middle East, which is one of the world's largest producers of energy and manufactured goods for the global market. The Persian Gulf is the only viable route to transport cargo to the Asia-Pacific region, supplying an estimated 80% of that market's needs. China and India, the world's two largest powers, are deeply dependent on this waterway. Beijing has thus far resisted pressure to take sides. China insists that its sovereignty must be respected, and that diplomacy should be a means of reconciliation, not a tool to force surrender. Analysts note that China uses the Strait of Hormuz more than any other country, including India. As a result, China continues to protect Iran's interests, at least to the extent that stability in the region is maintained. Part V. Iran's Supreme Leader. We do not seek war, but we have rights. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has sought to strike a delicate balance. He has affirmed that Iran does not seek war. Yet he has also recognized that the Strait of Hormuz case has entered a new and tense stage in negotiations. Through intermediaries, Iran has urged Middle Eastern countries to understand its right to control the strait. Iran also claims the right to maintain a military presence at all times against aggression. President Trump remains skeptical. The Iranian leader must make it clear, Trump said, whether he needs to continue the war or in the practice of capturing ships in the Strait of Hormuz to extract money from global oil markets. Trump warned that if Iran does not reach an agreement on this point, Iran will be hurt the most. Analysts see the Strait of Hormuz as the single most important bargaining chip on the US-Iran negotiating table. Without it, Iran loses its primary lever. Part 3. The Lebanon connection. Iran's other red line, but the Strait of Hormuz is not the only issue. Iran has linked the ceasefire to a second, geographically distant conflict, the war in southern Lebanon, as part of its 10-point condition for peace. Iran demands a negotiated end to the fighting between Israel and militant groups in southern Lebanon. Iran argues that a 14-day ceasefire makes no sense if Israel continues its military operations there. We want peace in the entire Middle East, an Iranian spokesperson declared. All countries in the region must participate in implementing the ceasefire. This statement is widely seen as Iran's way of telling Israel that it, too, is a party to the Lebanon war, and that any comprehensive agreement must include Israeli concessions. The United States has rejected this linkage outright. State Department spokesperson Corina Lowitz stated unequivocally, Iran should not link the Lebanon issue to the peace process. Iran must tell its proxies in Lebanon to stop attacking Israel. That is a done deal. Israel will not attack Lebanese militants again if the attacks cease. Lowitz reminded reporters that Lebanese militant groups, including Hezbollah, are not part of the Lebanese government's armed forces. They are, she said, proxies that the Islamic Republic uses on Lebanese soil to attack Israel and destabilize the region. The United States has demanded that Iran stop supporting these groups and dismantle them entirely. The list of Iranian proxies includes Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, a regular armed group, Hamas, which has been weakened but not destroyed, the Houthis in Yemen currently seizing territory from the internationally recognized government, various Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, which have carried out terrorist attacks on American bases, and the US Embassy. Part 7. Israel's position, not our negotiation. Israel has distanced itself from the US-Iran talks. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office announced that the negotiations have nothing to do with Israel's war in southern Lebanon. That conflict is a territorial dispute between Israel and Lebanon, an Israeli spokesperson said. It has been ongoing for many years. Long before the recent US-Iran tensions, the Lebanese militants continue to attack Israel, and Israel has the right to defend itself. Netanyahu has even offered to negotiate directly with Lebanon, bypassing Iran entirely. Lebanon must enter into negotiations with Israel, he said. There is no room for this issue at the Iranian-American negotiating table. Iran, however, refuses to back down. Tehran insists that it will use the Lebanon war as a counterweight to the Strait of Hormuz. Observers describe a potential compromise. Iran might abandon its demands regarding Lebanon in exchange for concessions on the strait. But analysts doubt Iran will give up the strait, especially after already abandoning its nuclear weapons program. For Iran, the strait is the last remaining hostage it holds over the West. Part 8. The balance of power pawns on a geopolitical chessboard on the table in these negotiations are two primary objects. 1. The Strait of Hormuz. Iran demands the right to collect payments from passing ships. The US demands an end to all such extortion. 2. Southern Lebanon. Iran demands a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanese militants. The US and Israel demand that Iran disarm its proxies. Observers warn that if these topics are not resolved quickly, the shouting will give way to shooting. Some leaders have already warned that a full-scale war with Iran could break out, and that the more serious the conflict becomes, the more Iran will suffer. Iran's navy is depleted, its economy is in ruins, and its proxies, while dangerous, cannot defeat a coordinated US-Israeli campaign. Conclusion: a fragile peace or a prelude to war. As the talks begin in Iran, the world holds its breath. Both sides have declared victory before a single word is spoken, a dangerous habit. The Iranian people, who have suffered through decades of war, sanctions, and internal repression, watch with exhausted hope. They know that the real losers in any war are not generals or politicians, but ordinary citizens. The Strait of Hormuz remains the key. If Iran can extract concessions there, it may walk away from the table claiming victory. If the United States forces Iran to abandon the strait entirely, Tehran may feel it has nothing left to lose. And in that vacuum, war becomes not just possible, but inevitable. For now, the diplomats speak, but the guns are still loaded.